everybody. Welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, November 12th, 2015. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. That dam burst in Brazil last week that still has left about 21 people missing and confirmed the death of at least 6 people could cost the insurance industry about $600 million in claims. A property policy held by the dam's owner, Samarco Mineração, could cover up to $90 million in related claims. A separate policy pertaining to business interruption, which was taken out by BHP Billiton and Vale, could pay as much as $510 million if the two companies can prove that they've lost that much in profits. This could take at least 90 days to investigate the total ramifications of the lost profits. That lead underwriter of the combined property and business interruption policy is Zurich-based ACE. ACE would be liable to pay 80% of the amount covered. Spain's MAPFRE, Canada's Fairfax Holdings are also part of the team on the plan as well. Germany's Allianz provides the venture with a separate policy for civil liabilities that has a coverage limit of about $18 million, according to a bond prospectus issued by Samarco last year. This coverage is said to be too small to pay for any extensive environmental damage, let alone what courts decide as compensation for families of the victims. Britain's first official named storm, they haven't had named storms before, this one is called Abigail, is going to hit Scotland sometime today. It's going to bring 80-mile-an-hour winds and potentially hazardous waves. And according to the UK Met Office, there is some risk of disruption to transport networks across the north and northwest of Scotland, and large waves could pose a threat to coasts. If you've been in Chicago, you've probably seen or driven on the Chicago Skyway. You weren't driving on it last night. It was closed down at about 2 a.m. as a result of very heavy winds, throwing debris into 2 semi-tractor trailers. There were also down power lines throughout Chicago. Wind speeds reached as high as 50 miles per hour, mostly along Interstate 80. The Skyway is open for business as usual this morning during the rush hour. We picked this next story because the United States Defense Department rarely reveals its hand about any new weaponry that the government is working on. At the end of this story, we'll see it. U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter warned that the land reclamation efforts and the military buildup in the South China Sea could lead to conflict between nations in the area and the United States. He was speaking at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library out in California. He also used this speech to take a swipe at Russia's recent military moves. He says, at sea, in the air, in space, and in cyberspace, Russian actors have engaged in challenging activities. He also talked up some of America's new high-tech weaponry, including an electromagnetic railgun that can fire projectiles at an astonishing 4,500 miles per hour. He also said that the U.S. was modernizing its nuclear arsenal, investigating a new technology such as drones and a new long-range bomber, as well as lasers and new systems for electronic warfare. Carter also hinted at additional new weapons that would be, quote, surprising ones I really can't describe here. Very interesting because the U.S. defense budget is still bigger than the combined defense budgets of the next 8 countries in rank as far as military spending goes. So they must be spending it on something. The South Korean Supreme Court earlier today upheld the life sentence of the captain of the ferry, the Seawo, that capsized in 2014, killing more than 300 people, mostly teenagers trapped inside the ship as the crew fled. In April, an appeals court had convicted the captain, Lee Jun-suk, 70 years old, of committing murder through willful negligence after he and other crew members abandoned the ship, leaving the passengers on board. The Supreme Court said if there had been a timely order to evacuate the passengers, a considerable number of victims would have escaped and lived. And once again, we've had another couple of laser incidents, this at Dallas Love Field, an airport. The hunt is on to find the person who blinded several pilots. The strikes happened last night. Pilots from Southwest Airlines, Virgin America, and a private business jet were hit. The planes were hit at altitudes as high as 4,000 feet and were making their approach coming into Dallas. No problems with any of the flights. They all landed safely. However, a captain on the plane said, when it's nighttime, the lights in the cockpit are dim. We're trying to focus on exterior visual clues, which are the approach lights, the runway lights, and instead we're being blinded by this huge green light that's being shown in our cockpits. It's totally distracting. This was also a scene of some New York radio station helicopters that were monitoring traffic last evening, and they were also being shot at by lasers. Ultimately, this is going to result in a catastrophe. That's the news for today. We're getting breaking news. We'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.